Gave birth to Victoria Elizabeth. We were at Stonecrest Mall. It was the day after Christmas, 12/26/2001, and she had a full-blown seizure.
Oh, wow.
And we called DeKalb. EMS came out, and they pretty much said we could take her to Eggleston, but you'd probably have to pay like $600 for the ambulance ride, or you could take her for free. And so we pretty much took her to the ER, and they did all sorts of tests and said nothing's wrong with her. And it was finally January 2nd, 2002, where she had an EEG, and the neurologist came back and said, your daughter's brain activity is grossly abnormal. So I was kind of like, what do you mean? And he said, infantile spasms. I said, what do you mean? He said, seizures in infants. And so I said, okay, what do you do? And he said, you could do vigabatrin, which is illegal in the United States. You can get it from Canada because it'll cause her to lose her peripheral vision. But it might stop her seizures, might not. But got to get it from Canada. Or you can do Topamax. He said it'll dummy her up. She'll be lethargic, but it might stop her seizures. Or you could do ACTH, which is a steroid, and you give her a shot in the thigh. He said you have to watch her heart, make sure her heart doesn't explode, but it might stop her seizures.
Run that back. So I gotta give my kid a shot in her thigh. It might stop her seizures, but it might explode her heart.
Correct.
That seems like an impossible choice.
I said, what would you do? And he said, I can't tell you that. And so, needless to say, I've tried everything. Tried the steroids, got the drug from Canada, and did a different cocktail drugs, and done everything that they tried and suggested, and even got a seizure alert dog. The city of Clarkson with the mayor raised money and helped us go to Ohio and get a seizure alert dog that would alert when she's having a seizure. We even got an implant in her chest to swipe a magnet over it to stop the seizure when she's having a seizure. It's a vagal nerve stimulator. Mm-hmm. And we had that procedure done. So my whole point back was I've done the meds, and we've done the dog, and we've done the implant. What else can we do? Just as a parent, you want to do everything and try everything that you can possible if it's going to give your child a better choice of life or chance at life.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine, just me being a father myself, I couldn't imagine dealing with that, and not in a negative way. I couldn't imagine carrying that weight.
Yeah, it was obviously a lot. And at one point there was some genetic testing because they wanted to do, but of course insurance didn't cover it. So my family raised the money to cover the cost of the genetic testing. And they came back and said, your daughter has mitochondrial disease. Okay, what's that? They said, you need to plan for her funeral. You need to plan for her funeral when you're a competent, able, sound body and mind, because when she does pass, you're not going to be able to figure out anything. So basically take her home and don't worry about the quantity, worry about the quality. So don't worry about how long she's going to live, just worry about keeping her alive. And they said she won't walk, she won't talk, that she'll basically pass away around adolescence is what they told me.
Wow. And how old is she now?
Praise God. She's 23.
Wow. Oh, man. Yes.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And so we just pretty much play like Brandon Lake and Maverick City music. We play a lot of that throughout the day, and she sits there like Ray Charles, happy, and just soaking and absorbing, and that's what, we feel like she loves it because she responds to it.
Yeah. So is she nonverbal?
Correct.
Okay. And then in 2013, you just kind of decided to...
Well, my daughter was still having seizures, and we had the service dog, and I've done all the things that the doctors asked. I flew to California to meet with a world-renowned neurologist. I took her to Dr. Chagani in Detroit Children's Medical. So I'm doing all these things and finding the specialist. And so I feel like I'm doing what I need to do to get her care, but she's still having seizures. So I see this Dr. Sanjay Gupta out of CNN is doing this CBD oil, which is just CBD for a little girl, Charlotte Fiji, who had seizures. And found this mom in California who helped her son, who also had seizures and autism, and her husband's a California Highway Patrol officer.
Okay.
And so I kept messaging her, trying to figure out how she was helping her son. And So she kind of explained to me that she gets the flour because in California she's able to go to a brick and mortar store and obtain flour. And she comes home and makes her son's medicine. And she said he began talking.
Wow.
Yeah.
And prior to that, he was nonverbal?
Nonverbal. And I was so jealous. So jealous. So I went to Thaddeus Brown, Captain Brown, City of Clarkson, and said, can I try this CBD oil for my daughter? And I got like 2 thumbs down. Like, no, you can't because it's medical marijuana. I'm like, well, it's CBD. And they were saying, well, it's medical marijuana. So I said, I'm going to have to resign because I want to pursue this for my daughter. And that's what I did. I'm basically an advocate for whole plant safe access medicine, meaning that my daughter, who suffers from seizures, I had to relocate to Colorado and get her oil because the Georgia legislators couldn't get a bill passed. And Senator Butch Miller, who was in Forsyth, I believe he's over, and he loaned me his wife's van.
Wow.
To go to Colorado. When someone says, let me know if you need anything.
Hey, dog. Hey, Senator. Need some wheels.
Please and thank you. We own Milt Martin Honda. So, like, you have wheels.
Okay,
You've got nothing but wheels. And 100%. I need some. So, it's a win-win. And so Senator Butch Miller loaned me his wife's van, and Representative Alan Peake paid rent for 6 months for us to relocate to Colorado.
Wow. So
we could get the oil. And that's where my daughter stopped having seizures and spoke for the first time.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
She spoke.
She said the word book.
Book. Man, that's amazing.
I remember when I was lobbying for safe access to medical cannabis for her, someone messaged me, like a stranger on Facebook. He said, why are you fighting for access to these kids who will never be a productive member of society?
Wow. What was your first thought when you read that? One, I want to thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Because it is all about perspective. Everything is about perspective. You can look at the glass half empty or half full.
Right.
And I admire your perspective of, you know what? She's still here with me. Whether she's kicking, screaming, fighting, doing whatever she does, I still got another day with her.
Amen.
So yeah, you definitely have inspired me today just by sharing a little bit of your story, right? And just the level of grace and patience and that you have to have dealing with, severely special needs daughter and a son.
Well, thank you. And however we can use them to help, like if there's a church that needs a special needs ministry, we can utilize and say, hey, so that people like us, because a lot of families don't even go to church because there's no place for their special needs child or adult.
That's a very interesting thought. And in my ignorance, I don't really think about it that much.
They all convene and like, hey, we want you to be a member. And I'm like, well, before you, we're not like them. They're not like us. We need a special needs room. Like, we're not normal. And I said, also, would it be a problem? Because I am an advocate for whole plant medicine. So I don't want us to be a member of your church and then you see me on the news lobbying for medical marijuana.
Yeah.
And he said, let me talk to the elders of the church and get back to you. I haven't heard from them.
Oh.
I try to be transparent and use a like conduit to say, God created humans and God created humans with cannabinoid receptors, and it's a Schedule I substance. And the United States have a patent on marijuana, but they say it has no medical properties. But yet there's studies from Israel that show that it does have medical properties. And so I try to use that to educate folks from the church or like our local sheriffs or our Chief Ken Ball. He was a former chief of Holly Springs. He was part of our documentary, so it was really surprising to hear him speak. And he said he believes in cannabis for medical purposes, but the I think the chief of police association gave him a slap on the wrist and said, we don't want law enforcement speaking on this topic.
Wow.
And so anyway, I try to use this to educate people and say, that we come with a lot. We come with a special needs family, and educate. When Victoria first started accessing cannabis oil, when we first met the governor and got cards, but her teacher at school said, does she need a bong for the corner of the classroom for her medical marijuana?
Oh.
And it's oil.
Yeah.
It's a drop of oil. It's not a bong. But the misinformation and media would show, when they would talk about the kids with seizures at the Capitol, but on the news they would show people smoking cannabis. So that didn't compute that we were lobbying for kids with seizures who needed cannabis oil, because the news was showing people getting high. And her teacher saw and was like, well, does she need a corner for the classroom, a special section for her bong for the marijuana? So just educating people.
Yeah.
Constantly.
If people wanted to learn more information about your mission and your journey, where can we point them to?
I have a Facebook page for Victoria. It's Pause for a Princess on Facebook, and people can follow her story and see how the medicine's helping her and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
You know what I mean? I appreciate the lengths that you've going through and continue to go through for the people that you love. It really shows a lot about your character.
Thank you.
And I hope that she starts to say other words too.
That's what my husband prays every day, that she speaks.
I'd love to follow your journey. I would love to, follow Victoria's journey and see the progression that are going to be made. You know what I mean? Just speaking that in Jesus' name, that there's going to be some type of breakthrough